Okay. Boom. All right, I'm going to try this the first time I'm doing this, everybody. I'm going to try to get it set up. You can turn on you should all be muted with your videos off automatically, but you can turn your computer on, your camera on. And there's supposed to be a chat. There we go. I've opened a chat window on the side that I can see. I just sent a message in there. If you admit all. Okay, I didn't realize I had to admit everybody. Oh, whoa.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, hey.
Yeah.
Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Hey, everybody. I'm going through different views, trying to see how we're going to do this. Wow, look at this, might be better.
I always just pin the person who's going to be leading it.
Pin the person. Okay.
Speaker view, but it'll bounce around if someone else is talking. But if I just go to you and pin that, then you'll stay in the speaker view for me.
Oh, okay.
That's what
okay.
I do.
So I see speaker view. Well, all right. Looks like we got this going. I just want this to be an informal thing. Mainly, you have my full undivided attention for at least an hour. I'm happy to go longer. And ideally, just Q&A if you got questions. If there's problems with the course, this is the first time we're doing it. Y'all are the first people in here that I've even tried this with. So if there's any problems that I need to be made aware of with the website or the course or anything like that, the floor is yours, and I'm here for at least an hour.
Okay.
And we could maybe, how we might want to run this so we're not all talking over each other is utilize this chat window that I hope everybody can see. And maybe we can try to just go speak one at a time. You have the option to mute your microphone in the bottom left corner. So you can mute your microphone, you can turn off your camera if you want, and just listen. And then I see people are using the chat here. So if you have a specific question, maybe throw it in the chat, and I think I can pull you up and we can see you. You could, whatever. Theoretically, we could use this to play music and stuff back and forth. But today I'm thinking maybe it'll just be verbal Q&A, whatever. I don't really care. You got me for the full hour. So Melissa over here, howdy, Melissa. Melissa says she has a question about tuning the banjo up rather than down. That's fair. What can I do here?
Well, I think I can just talk now, if that's okay.
Yeah, how about it, Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa. I live in Chicago, but I'm from New Albany, Indiana. So I did grow up hearing a lot of traditional music. Anyway, I have been trying to sing with the banjo, and I really like your approach to that. G is too low for me, rather being too high. So everybody's been saying just capo up. And I listened to your lesson, and I agree. It sounds weird. Like the banjo does not sound great capoed up to where I could sing it.
I can't hear you.
So should I just kind of follow the process, but in reverse, just keep tuning it up?
Yeah, so that's one way you could do it. I've never had that problem of having to tune it up. So there's the capo, obviously you could do, and you could tune it up. So if you're going to encounter problems with tuning high, where you're going to have strings busting, you don't want to put too much pressure on the instrument, right? So people are always concerned about that, rightly. So you can use light gauge strings if you're going to be going up past like A or something. Do you know what note you're shooting for?
I find that I can sing some songs in A, but up to the third capo, the third fret, capoing the third fret, it's more comfortable.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, then you start getting a tinny sort of
yeah,
reduced
it sounds not
sound from the
great.
banjo.
The
Yeah.
banjo does not sound good.
So you could invest a bunch of money, maybe try like a long, and no, I'm just not even going to do it, is it? So yeah, what you want to do is instead of, and I don't like capos for that reason. Have you experimented with light gauge strings at all?
I have not, but that is. Do you mean like light gauge metal strings or nylon strings?
Whatever type you're using. I mean, the
Yeah.
light gauge steel strings are easy to find. You can throw that on there, and those you can tune up pretty high, and without having to capo it. You can maybe get it up. You could figure out some
Congratulations.
combination where you don't have to capo at the third fret. Yeah, that is kind of a doozy. And it's probably a problem that people are dealing with more out people because people who like to capo up for some reason anyhow. But then I don't know. People, you see people doing strange things like they have a short scale banjo, and then they'll have a capo on that damn thing, and they'll have the pot stuffed with something. So I don't know what people are trying to do. But yeah, for you, I think the first thing you need to do is experiment with light gauge strings. Are you using steel or nylon?
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm a
Steel?
beginner, and I'm using what they sent me home with, so it does
Yeah.
have the steel
Well, that's
strings on it.
fine.
But I could change it out. I
It's
could change it
completely
out.
up to you what material string you want to use. I'm not trying to force anybody to go to nylon or anything like that. That's just what I do and what I happen to think is like optimal, right? So, but that's fine. I mean, both of the old guys, for example, who I learned from, George and Ernie, those guys still use steel strings, and they dabble in nylon strings and gut strings on like certain instruments, but they're never going to go away from steel strings that they've used their whole life. So it's, just to give you an example, like I'm not stuck up about the string material. So I guess that
Well,
answers that. Melissa, is there anything else going on with you?
no, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking my question.
Okay, cool. If anybody else has a question, that worked great, Melissa. We could try that format. You can put it in the chat to get my attention. Jay, I just asked a question that Zoom meetings generally last 40 minutes. Will this one go longer? Yes, I've shelled out money, so we can go as long as we want. We can go longer than an hour if you want, but ideally somebody will ask a question in the chat, and you can start talking, get my attention. I'll pull you up, and we'll do like Melissa and I just did with the camera, and we'll bring you up. So Mark says, I would like to know how you expect us to progress through the course material. Good question, Mark. And I wonder if I can.
Yeah, I guess
Here we go.
I was curious whether you would be expecting us to sort of just binge through all the videos or take it a step at a time. I've been sort of taking my time poking away at them, not trying to gobble them all up at once.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing, Mark. I'm sorry, I still haven't quite figured out how to. Oh, here he is. Look at this. And I'm going to do this so we can actually have some kind of a bit more personal than just talking to computers. So yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want, obviously, but I don't want you to binge through it. You can, but if you binge through it, I hope you'll binge through it more than once, because if you binge through it once, you're not going to absorb everything, right? So go through it at your own pace. I purposely didn't set anything up on a schedule, or I don't want anything to be formal about this. I wanted to base it as much as possible on the way that I learned to play the music. And the way that I learned was completely informal. I often learned from people who didn't give a shit whether I learned or not, right? So nobody ever really even taught me. So already you guys already know, maybe you already are aware that I'm cautious about creating these like sterile synthetic banjo learning environments where it's all about like paper and metronomes, and maybe we even using software and all this other stuff. I don't want to do anything like that, because that doesn't resemble the way that people have traditionally learned the music for hundreds of years. So the way that people have traditionally learned the music for hundreds of years has been at a very slow pace, and not even with the benefit of the stuff that I've tried to share with you in the course. So go through it slowly, ideally, if you want to binge and go through it all. I know a lot of people have already gone through all the videos and stuff because it's, but go through it again. I mean, if you're really into it, go through it again, especially certain videos like the lessons on tunings. That's the kind of thing, if you just watch it once, it's not going to make any sense to you. You need it's to really absorb that. You'll want to have your banjo with you and be pausing and going through that. And I'm hoping that some of the stuff will be worth revisiting for y'all down the line in the future. And I also hope that there's some kind of option for people to download them, and so you can have it going forward. I don't know if that option is available or not, but you do have your membership on the website is permanent for as long as I have the website going. So you at least always be able to go to the website and access those videos.
Okay.
But anyhow, that's a very long answer to a question. That's just, yeah, go through it at your own pace, informally. And it's just like anything else, it's best not to rush. But if you do rush through, I hope you rush through more than once.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Cool, Mark. Thank you, sir. Remove the pen. I'm going to go back to that big gallery view. How fast? Okay. Mike says, I see your fills after your melody notes are usually the first string and the fifth string. Could you show us some other fills other than the simple melody note? Whoa.
Sorry about that.
Oh, well, Mike, that's I see what you mean. Yeah. And if Mike, where are you at? Can you holler so I'm going to see you and I'm going to pin you? Okay, Mike, that's a very valid question. I think what you're referring to so you're talking about looking at tablature. I often just show on the tab I just show you that I hit the first string,
Right.
and then the thumb string.
What I was looking at is after you play your melody notes, you usually go to the first string and then the fifth string. Typical. And I noticed, typical. And then in a lot of your music, I'm seeing some more intricate fills, not just first and fifth, but maybe back and forth between some other stuff. And I was wondering where you're going when you're doing that to fill that out.
So you can do all different kinds of combinations. And if once you click it in your head that everything, if you're playing a straight hoedown piece, it's just 4/4, it all just has 4 beats in that every hand movement. So every hand movement is you're striking a melody note, and then you're either taking a rest or you're doing something else like a drop thumb, or your left hand is plucking something, and then you're following through either. And in the tablature for 2-finger, I show it as just striking the first string and then coming off on the thumb string. So I typically will just show it that way. I don't like to get too down in the weeds with the tablature because I don't want people to just create typewriter Xerox copies of the tablature, right? So I typically show it as the first and the fifth, but you'll note that if you actually watch me play and other people play, there is all kinds of different filler that you can put in there. But so once and I'm sorry, y'all, it's very easy for me to get very long-winded about these little simple subjects, but once you click it in your head that each of those hand movements, every time you strike a melody note, there's actually 4 beats that come with that. There's the melody and then 3 more. And typically it's just a break and then a first and a thumb. You can do you can do anything you want in there. So you can add a drop thumb, you can do something with your left hand, or you don't have to strike the first string at all. You can strike the second string, it can come off on the second string. I won't typically do a follow through playing 2-finger where I'll pluck on the 3rd string or something because my thumb is busy handling the 3rd string. So you can, instead of coming off on plucking the first string, you can come off on the 2nd string. If you're 2-finger picking, you'll often see I might reach this finger back and do a broad brush across the strings and come off and just brush all the strings, even though I'm 2-finger picking. Maybe it would help if I had a banjo in my lap. So yeah, you don't typically, maybe I can just come up with some stuff real quick. So that's just typically coming off striking a melody note and then coming off on the first string and then the thumb. So you could do it where you pick the second string. You'll typically, yeah, that's something that, like, watch Roscoe Holcomb or listen to Roscoe Holcomb. You'll do like a typical boom chicka lick, and then you throw in a double thumb lick.
That's exactly what I was talking about right there. Thank you.
Yeah, so what you're looking at there is actually what I would call two movements. I mean, you've got 8 beats there. So it's a melody note where I struck the thumb, and then I just needed to keep filling. So it's just a matter of, do you want the momentum of that filler to come from your right hand? So you just throw in a drop thumb note, and I'll notice that when I'm 2-finger picking, the momentum is heavily on my right hand. So when I'm 2-finger picking, all that momentum is in the right shoulder and the right hand, and so the filler comes from the right hand. So I'll throw in that boom chicka chicka chicka, boom chicka 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 little thing with the right hand. If I was going to play the same tune, whatever it may be, overhand style, when I'm playing overhand, my momentum is really more evenly broke up between my left arm and my right arm. And that's something I learned from George Gibson. So George is heavy on his. He's always doing something shifty with his left hand, whether it's just throwing in a little. And it's strange the way it works. Once you've been playing the instrument, these 2 different styles for 20 years or more, whatever, you notice little things like that. So that fill, if I'm playing overhand style, clawhammer style, all the filler is often coming from my left hand. It's more of those weird plucks and stuff. But when I'm playing 2-finger, for me personally, it doesn't come out as nicely, and the momentum wants to come from my right hand. So it's all just, the left hand is just playing keep up with the 2-finger picking. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. I appreciate that.
But you saw it's 2 movements there. It's a standard boom chicka, and then I'm throwing in a little drop thumb and getting like a boomalaka.
Right. That's what I was talking about, is those 8th note fills. Thank you.
Listen to Roscoe Holcomb as somebody. I may have got that from him, listening to him as a kid. Roscoe does that a lot as a fill, and it's very much coming from the right hand.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, buddy. We're gonna see if we can pull up another person. Jason over here. Jason, are you with us? In one video, you mentioned using the trigger finger instead of the middle finger for overhand. Is there an advantage of one over the other?
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Howdy. All righty. So, howdy, Jason. That's a good question. That's one I like to talk about. It's the simple question is, it's completely up to you which finger you want to use for overhand playing. I always encourage people, if they're new people, I say try to use this index 4-finger trigger finger. Try to use that first, and if that comes naturally to you and it's comfortable for you, just stick with it. And the reason being is because I do think there's a slight advantage to using this finger rather than this finger. And for the way that I play, for example, when I'm playing overhand, all of the action is really the same as when I'm 2-finger picking. It's coming from these 2 fingers. I happen to be really good with these 2 fingers. I'm handy on my right hand. I'm really good with them. And also my trigger finger happens to be a little bit more slender. When I start using my middle finger, you'll notice that mine it's longer, but it's also a bit fatter and blockier and square at the tip there. Compared to that's almost like the tip of a knife compared to that. So for me, that is it's more accurate. I'm able to really dig into the strings a little bit better with that than if I was using that. On me, it's just a chubbier finger. Now, anybody's hands are different. Somebody might have if their middle finger is better suited to it. Who am I to say don't use it? For me, it just has a better advantage. Also, the other thing is down the line, when you start, we were talking previously about adding in filler. with the right hand and stuff, with and sort of coming up with your own character and flavor to the way you're gonna play pieces and blah blah blah. For me, I notice it's real handy to have these 3 fingers as your spare fingers. And there's certain things that I do, little subtleties, where I'll come and I'll brush like this. And also I might be playing an up picking style where I'm coming on down, playing that rhythm. There's certain things I do where I wouldn't know how I would accomplish those if I was playing everything with the back of my middle finger. And I also, just as a pet peeve of mine, I just think it's kind of a shame to have this kind of useless sausage flopping around on top of your music, which we want to minimize. We want to be really efficient with our movements in the long haul. You know, people talk about, oh, don't develop bad habits, and because in the long haul, I normally say that's bullshit, and I try to throw that out the window. But it is true with shit, I lost my train of thought there. But in the long haul of playing this instrument, you want to minimize. That's what I was talking about. You want to minimize your movements and get this like maximum efficiency, not so you can jam as much notes in there, but so that you have the maximum freedom to throw embellishments and stuff in there. And I really do believe, over years of observation, that using this forefinger, this trigger finger, I think that gives you a slight advantage. Okay. I don't think the advantage is strong enough to where you should override your natural response. If your natural response is to use that middle finger, I don't think you should fight it.
Okay, because I've only been playing for private learning since February. So, and and everything I saw said, whichever is more comfortable. Well, the middle finger became pretty comfortable, but since I am still so new at it, I thought, and you said it in the video, I thought, well, I better. So let's practice with the index finger for a little while and see.
Yeah. Right. Further bit of advice that I was even given, people always told me to use whichever finger. I was told that by Ernie and by George, my 2 early mentors as a kid, both of whom used their trigger finger, but they both told me use whichever you want. That pretty much answers that. Yeah. Damn, I had another point to give on that. Damn it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Use whichever is best for you. Don't get into this idea where you've got to use one or the other. Oh, my pearl of wisdom that slipped away from me was use both.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to teach you to play overhand style and 2-finger picking, to develop those styles simultaneously, not to view them as 2 separate things. So maybe don't view your trigger finger and your middle finger as 2 separate things, especially as a beginner. Try to be fluid, go back and forth, and you will find which one you like better. That's what I did, because you can probably, if you go back far enough, you'll find me as a 13, 14-year-old where I was experimenting playing with my middle finger. You need to be able to use both, because you're going to injure one of them at some point.
Yeah.
So you're going to be forced, like I occasionally injure my index finger. I am forced to play with my middle finger. So I have to. And I find for me, it's a clumsy, square shaped fingertip. I don't like to play with it. And so you'll find the same thing. You may find that you become a middle finger down picker, but you're going to injure that middle finger, and you're going to be forced to pick with the other one. So do both. That's the pearl of wisdom. And I'll shut up about that. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
I'm going to remove that pen. I'm going to go down. So Jim, you said in the chat you have a question.
Yeah.
Holler at us. I'll try to pull you up.
You up here, over there.
There he is. It puts a little yellow frame around you. Howdy, Jim. What's going on, buddy?
Howdy. Yeah, so my question's regarding the different tunings and some tips on how to do that easily with, I'm using a fretless. And so a lot of the tunings, it says, match on this fret, drop this fret, and there's no frets. So
yeah.
Is it just trying to guess that and it's a matter of ear training, or do you have any
It is.
tips on how to do that quickly or to progress in that?
Yeah, it's a matter of guesswork at the beginning. You'll notice on the fretless banjo, you can move the bridge forward or backward. And if you imagine there were frets on this banjo, I'm gonna get some more light on me. If you were imagine that there were frets on this banjo and they're laid out, got them laid out just kind of like how I like them right now, but I'm gonna move my bridge for you guys. If I move this bridge way up here, imagine all those frets are like shrinking. If I move them back, those fret positions are stretching out. And you'll get a feel for that. Especially if you're going to play on a fretless banjo, you will develop a feel for that because you'll be forced to. You can mark, about where you want your bridge to be with a pencil and all that. And you can do, like you're a kid learning to play the violin. You can mark this. You can put tape up here. Some old banjos, they have a notch where they just stuck a pocket knife and kind of notched a corner. I'm not suggesting you do that. You can neatly, you can lay out a nice square. You can figure out where the exact frets are and you can scribe it neatly. So you still have a fretless banjo, but you have position markers. But ultimately, I don't need to do that. You're not going to need to do that. It is a matter of guesswork, and that sucks. To learn on that, it is difficult, but it's completely possible. And you just have to think of where are the fret positions. Most banjo builders who make them, they do like to build it where the thumb peg is somewhere in the vicinity of the 5th fret position. So you know that this is somewhere around your 5th fret position. I find with this banjo, when I set the bridge right where I like it, and Jeff Menzies made this banjo, and I guess he did it on purpose, where the 5th fret position is really right about where the string comes off the thumb peg there. So that's handy. And then it's just a matter of, it's up here, that's about the 4th, that's about the 3rd. Up here, it's anybody's guess. Down here is anybody's guess. And when you'll notice when I play an instrument like this, I mash my finger down. One reason I do a lot of slides is because I'm kind of sliding into where it sounds right. You know about that. So it's the same thing when you're coming up with that. Those fret positions, if you're going to tune off of a fret position, not off of where the fret is, and it is going to be guesswork, but you're going to have to use your ear, and it's a little bit of a puzzle. You're going to hear sour notes, and you're going to say, well, that's not where that fret is. You're going to move your finger. You're going to move your finger, ever so slightly, and that might even be just rolling your finger ever so slightly on the same position to kind of fine tune it. And you're going to have to find where those frets are, and you'll develop that it is possible to do. And that's how I do it. It is just a matter of guesswork. Okay. And I try to use the term, I try not to say the 5th fret, 6th fret. I try to use the term 5th fret position, 4th fret position. It's a mouthful, because if we're using a fretless instrument, those positions are still there. We just don't have the actual physical fret to work with.
And so if your reach is kind of awkward, you can actually shorten the scale on a fretless and it's all right, or is it?
Yeah, you can move the bridge around anywhere you can. That's kind of the beauty of these instruments, is you can move the bridge around anywhere you want, and it all kind of adjusts itself. I find I like to get the bridge as far back as possible. And then you get kind of the widest, the fret positions actually, these imaginary positions they're actually spreading as you move the bridge. It's actually spreading those fret positions wider or narrower. Kind of a crazy thing to think about. So you can move the bridge around. You can put that bridge anywhere you want.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Enjoy the journey, sir. Okay, I'm going to see if I can go down and find
Hey, Clifton,
another.
I'm going to jump in just because I'm also playing fretless. This is Jason.
Yeah.
And I think as we're going through this, like the question that I always have is, because playing whole chords is a bit of a kerfluffle when you're dealing with fretless because it just doesn't ring out. How do you approach substituting a technique? Like if I'm playing a tune, and I don't have an example that would require a full chord,
Yeah.
what's in your toolkit to kind of play around with that to fill it so you're not relying on a full strum that just deadens because there's no fret.
Yeah.
Help it ring.
So, you'll know, I just put up on YouTube a video on this banjo where I'm playing Drunkard's Doom, which is all played out of a 3-finger chord position. And I'm just barely able to pull that off. And it is difficult to do that with the full, and it is muted, and you're going to mess up and your strings are going to buzz and sound like crap sometimes. So that's one thing, is you can just do it and try to get better at it. But in the toolkit to get around it, the old time trick is you're using an open tuning, right? You're using, G tuning or double C tuning or G minor tuning or whatever. So the old timers, if you look at old like fretless players, think like John Snipes or any of these other really old timers who played on a fretless banjo, Kyle Creed and guys like that, they're not using a lot of big chord shapes. They're mostly just using one finger. So what you need to do is don't worry about the chord shape. As long as you're in a typical traditional banjo tuning that's an open tuning, you can get away with kind of just giving the flavor of that chord using just one finger. Like whatever you're playing the melody on, you just put that finger down, and then this banjo's out of tune and stuff, but then just brush across all the strings and just let that don't go to the chord. And I don't know if you're coming from, are you a guitar player by any chance? No, not necessarily. A lot of guitar players will come to like a fretless banjo and think, well, what the hell you got to do? But you don't have to use chords shapes at all. So that's be my best advice. The other thing you can do, the old timer trick was they used to notice if there's a song where you're holding one string constantly, what you can do is you can just tune up to that fret. So you don't have to hold that fret down. You understand what I'm saying there? Like if you're constantly holding a chord shape on a fretless banjo, one thing old timers used to do, and that's one way we developed so many different tunings on the banjo, was they would just say, well, if I'm constantly holding my middle finger on the fourth string there, I'm just going to tune that fourth string up, and then I'll free that middle finger up. So there's tunings like F, D, G, C, D, right? That we play Cumberland Gap in. I just did Drunkard's Doom. I saw a man at the close of the day. I just put that up on YouTube. So we play that, and we typically play that out of that F chord shape, right? But there's an alternate tuning to that where you actually raise the bass string up to F as well. So you're actually in F, F, G, C, D, and then you've freed it up. And I learned to play East Virginia in that tuning, F, F, G, C, D. So that's an alternate to F, D, G, C, D. You actually raise the bass string up to match the fifth string, and then suddenly you can still make this chord, but you don't need that finger anymore. So there's a lot of those old time tunings come from that. I don't know for sure, I can't prove it, but I'm convinced that it came from old traditional players on fretless instruments who realized that, well, to achieve this song, I've got to hold this chord shape forever. I'll just change the tuning so I can free up a finger. Or I can twist another string and I can free up another finger. So you encounter all kinds of weird tunings that way. So one trick is to try to tune around it. If you notice, if you're trying to do a particular piece and you're constantly holding that string forever, instead of holding it, tune to it, and then free a finger up. So I don't know. I hope that helped you, Jason. That gave you something. Is that in the neighborhood?
Yeah, it definitely did. And I think it just to clarify on that, I think where if I'm approaching, let's say, to learn Cumberland Gap, that's coming from a whole chord shapes, is what do I substitute? How do I substitute it so that it's like I get the. I mean, I'm naturally like,
yeah,
a lot of alternate pull-offs, like that just makes sense to me. But when it's where I get stuck is if I'm going through and trying to learn a line or learn a certain run, that's using chords. It's
Yeah.
okay, I can't play the chord. What can I use to what can I use to fill that to keep the rhythm while I'm still accomplishing the same thing?
Yeah. But you can, like I said, you can just throw the chord out the window. You can look at, I guess, I don't know the technical term, maybe like the root of the chord, which is the actual note that you're striking with your right hand, like the melody note in the chord, and just focus on holding that one down. And don't worry about the other ones because you're in an open banjo tuning. So you will, like, that's the way George Gibson plays. Like if you watch George Gibson play East Virginia, I have videos on YouTube, you can pull them up. If you watch George play East Virginia overhand style, he's not ever mashing down but one finger, maybe two, but typically it's one finger. And he'll do the same if he plays Cumberland Gap. And we're talking in this tuning too, this FD, GCD tuning that you typically hold that heavy chord in. It is challenging on fretless banjo. George's response to that is don't fuck with the chord, just one finger at a time. You're in an open tuning. So it's kind of like just keep calm, carry on, relax. You're in an open tuning. And as long as you're tuned right and you're one finger, and then just focus on that one finger and get that one finger exactly where it needs to be. And when you mash it down, if it's not in the right location, roll the tip of that finger and get it into the right location and make to where it sounds right. And if you're too far off, slide into the right location. But don't try to do chords on the fretless. You won't see me do it, but once in a while when I do, I'm very careful about it. And I keep it very basic. So anyhow, okay, we're going to get on to another one. Jason, it was a pleasure. I think I answered that. On the piece you're learning there, just ignore the chord. Okay, I skipped some people. Oh Lord. Oh. Melly, Jason. Okay, Kaylin, you say you're missing a part. Do you need it? That's a good question. We can probably handle quickly. Kaylin, can you pop up and start talking?
Yeah, hi.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah,
Pin
hi.
you.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Howdy.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah,
So you're missing a part and you may not need it.
well, it's this old 1880s 6-string that I got.
Cool, looks nice.
Yeah, it's got they set it up for a 5-string, so it's got some of that going on. But the piece that I'm missing is this. I don't know what it's called.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
And the head's tuned down real low.
Yeah.
So it has a real sort of dark, soft kind of sound to it. And it's fretless too, so I'm probably
Yep,
not
I
hitting
already, I'm just going to type it in. Go to Bob Smackula's. I'm going to type it into the chat, smackula.com. And Bob he's the person I go to, and I need a part like that. That's not a vital. I mean, you could still play the banjo, obviously, without those parts. There's several parts that you're missing in there. It's kind of a pain. And I would go to smackula.com. He's actually got a phone number, and you can actually call the number and talk to somebody. And they'll give you some idea. He probably has the part or something close to it. What it is there's a little metal brace that goes on there. I'll show you on another instrument. There's a little metal brace on there. What you're missing is something like this. I'm sure it's different from this. And there's probably 2 little wooden wedges that tap in there and get tightened in there. Some variation of that is what you're missing. And what that does is just binds the banjo, the rim and the neck, that heel joint, it binds it together tightly, just makes the banjo sound better.
Yeah, because I got a newer banjo and it just sounds so much louder and resonant. And
yeah, it probably will even fully repaired, but yeah, you want to and go on that Smackula website. He has a whole inventory of vintage banjo parts. You can go through and look at these. I'm not sure what Bob calls that. I call that a heel brace. But there's all kinds of different names for that. It's easy to find, but you'll want to do something there. Yeah. Ideally,
Okay.
yeah, maybe if you have access to a luthier, I don't know, that's a chat for a different day, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of out in the sticks, so I don't
Yep.
know any banjo luthiers around
Yep.
here.
Yeah, you're
I
gonna
don't-
have to do it yourself.
And I trust myself more than, some guitar guy that's never worked on a banjo before, but I'm
Yeah.
still pretty iffy about it.
It may just be a matter of screwing something on there, and it may be easy. I just can't tell you. That's one of the problems with antique banjos is there's a million different ways to secure the neck into the rim at that area. They've used a million different ways. They still haven't agreed on the best way to do it.
I just
Still.
posted a link where you can get it. I just bought some stuff from these guys. I think it's Pisgah Banjos is like their sister company or something. And
Balsam
they
Banjo,
got it.
yeah, their sister company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you go, look on Balsam Banjo Works, I think is what it is. That's another parts supplier. That's also another company. You can call up Pisgah or Balsam and get a hold of a real person, I think, and talk to somebody. So Balsam might have a part that might fit right there. Yeah.
Okay, well, I got both of those sites queued up for later. I just have a short little question.
Yes, sir.
I've had my banjo for about 7 months, and I can get like a little first part of a song when you show it, but the rest of the song, I just get so confused going through the whole thing and trying to figure out with the tab and everything. And
yeah, man,
I feel really lost, even with the videos and everything.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's not an unusual feeling. That's how I felt for a long time. Where are you at? I mean, how long did you say you've been playing?
I've had a banjo for 7 months, but I started playing guitar when I was about 11. So I have some musical background, but when it comes to the songs that you're showing, I can get like a little bit of it, but like earlier someone asked about the different filler and the different types of things. I'm noticing there's a lot of additional stuff that I'm having a hard time picking up, aside from the most, rudimentary kind of thing. So, well,
you've been playing for 7 months, so my response to this is don't even worry about all that stuff yet. Focus on getting, whatever. I'm hopefully that what are you learning? 2-finger, overhand, both?
Mostly I've been working on overhand, but since I started the course, I'm trying to do more 2-finger because that's really confusing to me as well.
Yeah, well, you might find, I see what you mean there. Well, the thing is you're at the 7-month period. That's not even at a year. It took me several years before I could even play. So if you can even play the damn thing before like a year, you're doing better than I did. So it's tricky. And what you need to do at your stage is really focus on the basics and just the actual hand movements, just repeating those hand movements.
There's somebody on here, they show everybody
and so forth.
And there's somebody on here who seems to just have left his phone going. And so I've seen him finish up getting a haircut and
oh, well, that's okay.
Walk someplace or other. And
oh, well, that's okay. How's it going, Aaron? Just got your haircut. Yeah, well, I mean, so
it might be just listening in,
Yeah, it's fine to just listen in. It's actually more disruptive to point out that somebody is walking around and getting their haircut than the guy walking around getting his haircut. So just let him. This is a strange new world we're in, and it's okay as long as if you see somebody's like genitals out, that might be a problem. So who has, it's getting to be more questions than I can keep up with in the chat. Somebody start hollering and I'll pull you up.
Hey, Clifton, you hear me?
Is that Mike Stinson?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Mike, what you got, buddy?
I'm tuning your banjo to your voice. Could you run through that? I mean, you're tuning the 4th string to say E, and then you're going to take you're gonna fret that and to get the fourth string. Is that how that works?
So if I wanted to tune this banjo to my voice right now, I would start with the bass string. And so this banjo just came out of its case and I've had it matched to my voice. But do y'all notice when I pluck this open fourth string, that's about the bottom end of my register. So I just use that as the root. And then Mike, from what you're going to do to relative tune your other strings off of that depends on the tuning that you're going to. So if you want to go, that's where it gets super complicated. And I don't even know how to teach all of that information. That is a matter of just repetition, doing it over and over again, not being afraid to go to different tunings and just trying to memorize this fingerboard so you can predict, what's going on, at least up, from here to here. So if I am then going to go to double C tuning, for example, and I've just matched it to the bottom end of my register, I'm going to note the bass string at the 7th fret. That's going to give me what the open third string should sound like.
So you're fretting the 7th fret.
Yeah, if I'm going to go into double C tuning, I'm going to fret the bass string at the 7th fret to get that open G sound for my third string. And then I'm going to, once I get my third string dialed in, if I want to continue that tuning, I'm going to note my third string at the 5th fret. That gives me the sound for my second string open. And I'm going to adjust that. And then I'm going to note my second string at the 2nd fret. That gives me the sound for my first string open. So I'm going to adjust my first string until it matches that. And then I'm going to come down, I'm going to note my first string at the 5th fret. That gives me a G. And I'm going to dial in my thumb string. So I know that's a ton of information. I don't know how to teach that other than like writing a book about it. And I'm sure there's already books about it. So it's just a matter of doing that over and over again. Use the digital tuner as much as you need to as a crutch until you can get to that point to where you can, and that's just one tuning, right? If I want to do the same thing and I want to go to the standard, what's become the standard banjo tuning, G tuning, G, D, G, B, D, then it's different. Then if I want to get a G off of my 4th string, I have to note that 4th string at the 5th fret. So now I've lowered my 3rd string to where it matches the bass at the 5th. Then I'm going to note the 3rd at the 4th. Then I'm going to note the 2nd at the 3rd. Drop the 1st to match that. Whoop, drop the 1st string to match that.
Where are you? Oh, okay.
Then I'm going to note the 1st string at the 5th fret.
Is a woman, I guess. It has Melissa as her name, and then she has in parentheses, she, her. What identification is that?
Oh, we've got. Oh my God.
I don't think he knows he's
Somebody just forgot
unmuted.
to mute their mic.
I think I removed that guy. Anyhow.
Can we get his recipes?
So anyhow, and now I don't remember, Mike, howdy. So Mike, the answer to that is each one is different. There's a million different banjo tunings. There's not an easy way to teach that. You just have to, like I said, use the digital tuner as a crutch and find where those strings match. And then eventually you won't need the tuner. The tuner just becomes sort of a redundant step in your tuning process. You can use the tuner if you're going to, like that's what I use the tuner for at this point is if I'm going to record something, or if I, like if I'm going to film something for YouTube, it's polite to tune the banjo to the tuner, so that I know I'm not just off in some crazy spot and people don't know where I'm at,
You usually tune F standard, don't you?
Yeah, yes, David. Usually I'm 2 down from standard is about, like if I'm gonna tune with a tuner, I'll go 2 frets down from standard. So if that's G D G B D, dropped 2 frets lower would be F C F A C. It's the same tuning, but it just, you drop it down a little bit lower. I don't know, that's complicated. I don't even know how to explain that stuff.
Yeah,
but that is
I mean,
about where my voice likes to sing. David?
Yeah, I think it's I think what might be confusing people, and pardon all the people on this chat if I'm over anticipating what anybody's thinking, but with regard to tunings, well, I think it's wonderful the fact that you point out that to tune the lowest string to the lowest pitch that you can sing, because that helps you be able to better reach singing throughout the entire register of the banjo. When people refer to tunings, they're sort of they tend to start on one string, and they're basically a bunch of relative tunings, which is what you were trying to teach by pointing out that like a G standard tuning would be 5th fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, or the C tuning you were talking about there. The point wasn't that you were tuning to an actual C, but you were tuning, once the bass note was set, to the relative strings of an open C. That's the part that I think people might have to get their heads wrapped around.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're also using digital tuners will complicate that, because then they got to remember to think, okay, well, I'm tuning in G, but I actually put the lowest string on an E, so I have to drop everything else 3 frets. Like it's a lot to wrap your head around. And I completely agree when you say that there's a lot to explain and it takes time.
Yeah, and even if you explain every point of it, only so much can be conveyed through language. It's one of those things you've got to actually do it, and just try to don't freak out about it. Take your time with it. It is helpful to keep a little notebook. I think hopefully most everybody's keeping some kind of keep a journal or something where you can write down, collect names of tunes and collect lyrics and collect tunings and
people
stuff
to listen to, and all of that.
Keep it in a notebook, and that'll help you kind of organize your thoughts. Draw a diagram of the fingerboard, stuff like that. That's all helpful stuff that I did when I was a kid. I drew diagrams of the fingerboard. I wrote down every verse, every tune, every tuning, stuff like that. That'll help you kind of develop it in your brain, but yeah, it's kind of like it's a towering subject. It's probably the one subject in the course that tunings video that I knew was going to be the most difficult, and is probably the most intimidating to teach, because frankly, I don't know how to teach that. All I can do in that video is I give you most of the tunings that I use. I put the code on the video. So if you want to get to that tune, that relative tuning, you go to this fret, then you on this string, go to that fret, and so forth. That's really the best I can give you. And then the rest has got to be like your journey. You're going to have to do it on your own. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And it's really just how far do you want to go with it? How much time and effort do you want to put into it? Is it just a hobby, or are you completely obsessed with this and you want to be able to do every damn tuning and so forth? All right, I'm yakking too much. Somebody else pipe up.
Hey, Cliff.
Yes. I think we had Josh was first. I'm going to pin him. We'll get to the next person. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Hey, good to be here. I have a quick question. I actually posted this in the Banjo Heritage chat, but I thought not, so I'll go ahead and delete that now. I have a During Good Times special banjo, which had a resonator on it when I purchased it a long time ago, and I was learning bluegrass. And now that we're, I don't even see you, but that's okay. Now we're doing traditional banjo, or now that I'm doing that pretty much primarily, does it make sense? I have these steel strings, and I just ordered these nylon strings, but I see, of course, I got to get a new bridge here as well, because as you discussed, it's ebony, so I guess it would dull the nylon strings. But is this? It also looks like maybe there's ebony up here as well on the nut. Is that?
Yeah.
So do I just have entirely the wrong banjo for this style of playing?
No, your banjo is perfectly fine. You
Okay.
may. I've noted people. What kind of strings did you order? Did you order the Labella number 17?
Yeah, actually, they're right here.
So
Labella 17s.
People have told me that they've had luck fitting those into the nut, into the good time nut. So you
Okay.
should be fine. You're just going to need to get a new bridge, and I recommend Joel Hooks. That website is banjothimble.com. I mention that all the time. Have you heard mention that? I'll put that in the chat. Banjothimble.com, and pretty much you can pick out a bridge there. You can talk to him, and he'll help you pick one out. But you're going to need a traditional bridge is required to hold up those nylon strings, because they're in your bridge there, the slots are cut so narrow to accept the steel that the nylon simply won't fit. Like the fourth and third strings probably won't fit into that bridge. So it's easy to just order a traditional bridge from Joel, and then it'll hold that up no problem. Other than that, you shouldn't have any problems with that banjo. You might encounter, I think Blaine Chappell recently did the same thing. if he wants to describe what happened and how he recently did the same thing on a good time. Did you not, Blaine?
I did. Actually, it was on a Gold Tone AC1, but it's similar banjo.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it out right now.
Okay, so Blaine did the same thing that you're doing, Josh.
Oh, great.
So this is just an old style tailpiece. You can get like a no knot. This is a maple bridge. It's 5/8 inches tall, and then I pushed the neck. You can see, I mean, I've got a neck similar to yours. You just push the neck up so that you're closer to a 0 degree. Because otherwise your strings might buzz on that during good time, just because of how much back angle you have on the neck there. The most important thing is pushing that neck as far forward as you can.
What do you mean push the neck up? How do you
push the neck, Blaine, like with those coordinator rods?
So on this, and I think yours is similar, there's a nut here. You'll loosen this. You'll loosen this here as well. And then this will actually screw forward, pushing the neck up from the bottom. So that coordinator rod in the middle has got to go this way, as far as you can get it. And then once you tighten everything else down, you'll tighten this nut here, and this just kind of screws into the neck. And if you have to, you can put some kind of shim in here. I didn't have to, but that'll push your neck upward.
Gotcha. To make it more flush with the drum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like right now, Josh, your neck is angled, like a modern banjo comes angled slightly down like this from the pot. And so what Blaine is describing there, you just fiddle with those coordinator rods, and you'll be adjusting your neck, and you want to adjust it to where the angle rises up to where it kind of looks flatter. And what you need for nylon strings, the traditional playing style, to really dial in and do it right, is you need a flat or close to flat neck angle. So you can adjust that on your banjo, and you can raise that, what Blaine is saying, push the neck up. You can force the neck to raise up slightly, and that's going to give you, when you go to play nylon strings on that modern banjo neck, there's a lot less freedom there for those strings to vibrate, and you'll encounter buzzing. And so that's why people think that, nylon strings, they sometimes encounter where they don't sound good on their banjo. It's flopping against the frets, it's muted and so forth. You can defeat all that by adjusting the neck, bringing the neck angle forward. And anyhow, that's down the line. You can find videos about that on YouTube and so forth. All you're doing is adjusting the neck.
Steel strings.
I have a question if you have time for it.
Yes, sir.
Quick, before we move on, can you say again where to get that bridge?
Yeah, I put it in the chat, banjothimble.com. Oh, let's see. Richard, was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Yes, sir.
Quick question, just procedurally, this is great, and but can't always be available at 12 o'clock on a Thursday. How are we going to be able to access this later on?
So after this wraps up this afternoon, here in a few minutes, I guess, I will send you, I'm not sure exactly how yet, but I will send you a link to where you'll be able to view it. So even if you're not here, you'll still be able to watch it, and it'll be stored. I think I can store it on the website to where you can access that. It'll have to be stored on Zoom, not on banjoheritage.com, unfortunately. So you'll have to access it through a link. I'll email you the link every time we do this. I'll email you the link, everybody. So whether you can skip it or you don't have time or whatever, you'll still be able to watch it. And I've done stuff like this before, and it is a lot of fun. Even if you don't want to participate or anything, it's good to have that, because it'll be an audio recording or video. You can listen to it while you're doing something else.
Good.
Whatever. So don't worry about that, Richard, if you miss them. This is very informal, and we'll make sure everybody gets the recording. On that note, that's been our first hour. If anybody else has a pressing concern, I'll bring it up.
I wanted to make a comment for one of the previous people. Hey, I had a comment for the first question. I think it was Melissa.
Yeah.
I think what would help her if she wants to play up higher is getting a smaller banjo. Honestly, like a little 16-inch neck. I know Goldtone makes one. But it's only like an 8-inch pot. But a shorter neck is really helpful. I have 2 of those, and man, I don't think I can break a string on it.
Yeah.
So
Go with I should have mentioned that. The short scale banjo. I think Melissa probably has left us. But yeah, go with the short scale banjo. I didn't even think about that. I'm always trying not to recommend people to like get a new banjo, but in a situation like that, there is a reason that people go to those short scale banjos. Yep. And that would be one of them. Thank you, Blaine.
Hey, Cliff, you have a minute for one quick question about song choices?
Yeah, as long as we'll stay, as long as people want to stay.
Hey, so the little background. I mean, I'm coming from the guitar, country blues, finger picking style, and like if you were starting that genre, you wouldn't start with like Reverend Gary Davis. You'd start with something a little bit more accessible. And to me, I'm trying to look for like is there a logical spot when it comes to tunings or song choices that you would recommend as we try to embark on the songster method?
So, well, are you asking about maybe somebody to listen to who's a little more?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit more accessible for a beginner.
Yeah. One person that pops to mind is Ed Teague. Ed is, you don't hear, there's not a lot of hubbub about Ed Teague, but he was a 2-finger banjo picker in North Georgia. He died not that long ago. You can find Ed Teague on YouTube. You can find him on the University of Georgia Digital Archive. They have a lot of videos of him that Art Rosenbaum filmed. Ed was a great 2-finger picker and a singer, but his playing style was real bare bones. It was a true index lead style. His thumb stayed on the thumb string. His trigger finger plucked every index note, and then he did a real visible brush across all the strings, and then a thumb pluck follow through. And that's pretty much how he played every piece, with some embellishments here and there. Ed is one person that comes to mind. A beginner can look at him, and you could model your initial approach off of his style. And you could be happy if you could play that way for the rest of your life and be happy like him. Or you, coming from a finger style guitar background, you could build on it and do a lot more with it, I would think. Ed Teague is one person. A lot of the more basic, like, I hate to say basic, but a lot of the more straightforward bare bones pickers were overhand pickers. A lot of the people who did choose to finger pick seem to have had a more complex style. But Ed is somebody who had a very straightforward style. I don't know if that answers your question, Jamie.
That totally answers. And as we learn the songster method, as we try to employ that method, which is great. What role would tablature play at all? Are we just completely discarding that? Or are we using that as a tool to transition ourselves into the songster method?
Well, tablature plays whatever role you want it to play. It is, I consider it a crutch, and you can lean on that crutch as much as you want. You know, I have noticed, I had my nose in the air about tablature for many years. I refused to do it and to offer it to people. I was trying to get people to totally ignore it because as a kid, you know, I had this extreme view. I threw it out the window. But now that I have been, y'all have people on Patreon group have kind of twisted my arm into providing tablature now. I do it like, I think almost every week I try to provide a tab. And that has shown me the benefit of it, of organizing things in your brain, where it does help me, where I notice if I go to film a video lesson, if I want to teach somebody how to play a tune, if I have tabbed it out beforehand, I notice that I give them a better banjo lesson, I think. Yeah. So there's something to be said for it. So I don't, you know, do with it what you will. I included a big PDF full of tabs in the course material. I think everybody should have had an easy time accessing those PDFs. They're attached to the first video lesson. So if you go to the first video lesson, there should be several PDFs underneath that lesson. I believe every PDF is there. So use the tabs as much or as little as you want. I don't want people to worry about like what I think about stuff like that.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Could I ask you about a cello banjo? I've seen you play all sorts of banjos on your videos.
Yeah.
I've never seen you play a cello banjo. Is that just some kind of a unique thing that you don't play?
Yeah, I've never had access to one. All those weird banjos that you see me play, Ed, are banjos that I'm selling for collectors, guys that are just trying to move inventory, and they typically give me their less desirable instruments to move. So I don't typically lay my hands on something really cool and like an antique cello banjo. These guys have instruments like those, but they're kind of hanging on the wall. They're not selling them. So I've just never laid hands on something like that. If I did, I'd play the hell out of it. But that's the answer to that, Ed. I don't think I've ever even laid hands on one.
Well, they are different. I mean, really deep sound.
Yeah, I would like to do that. That'd be cool as hell. I've built some banjos. I built a banjo that I think had a 14 or 15 inch pot, like a fretless style banjo. So you can look up some of those. And I've built like long neck minstrel banjos. So if you were to go on YouTube and type in like Clifton Hicks long neck minstrel, you'd pull up a couple banjos that I built. If you're into these sort of a big whopper rim and a big long neck, I've built a couple like that I played. So you can see some of that, but I just haven't laid my hands on an actual professional cello banjo, Ed.
Clifton, this is Brian.
I'm going to try to pull you up, Brian.
It was in the upper left.
Oh, here you go. I see you. Hey.
I got a question about your two-finger picking style.
Yeah.
I noticed that you pick the first and the second string with your index finger, and then you do the other strings with your thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm an overhand player of a lot of years, and I pick with my middle finger. And I guess my question is, should I spend time learning your style, or should I develop my own style? Because what comes more naturally for me is drop thumbing and then just picking the first string with my index finger.
Yeah, you should do what comes more comfortably to you. You should develop your own style. What I hope to do with this is to encourage people to develop their own styles. So anything that I show you how to do is really just as an example and just for your information. I'm not suggesting that anybody play anything exactly like me or that my way is the best way or the only way, etc. So I want you to, what you're doing to me sounds exactly like what I hope people will do. I hope you'll take whatever I give you, whatever I offer with a grain of salt, take the good, leave the bad, develop your own style. Whatever comes naturally to you is what you should focus on. Like, anytime you encounter like a big roadblock or whatever like that, ask yourself, do I need to beat down that barrier, or can I just adjust what I'm already doing and get around it? So what sounds like you need to just find a way to make what you're doing fit in to whatever you want to do with this course. Make it go fluid and take the benefits from this course, but don't let it, don't let it like cramp your style or hamper anything you're doing. Focus on what you want to do, developing your style.
Sounds good. That's pretty much what I'm doing, but I just wanted to verify that.
Yeah. Awesome.
When people drop some, what might they? Oh, sorry. I'll wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. Speak up again.
Cliff?
Yes,
Mike
sir.
Here? You got me or not?
I got you, Mike. How you doing?
Okay. Okay. I'm enjoying this, and I enjoy what you do, putting out old time banjo. Are you going to show us things to practice, or give us some lessons to practice, or you just want us to go ahead and look at the videos you put out and practice that?
Yeah, the videos are just for you to go through at your own pace. You can use them in tandem with, I've got a ton of beginner material on YouTube already, which I assume you're already familiar with. So there's lots of that stuff. I even have, on the YouTube channel, I've put together, as I was putting this course together, I put together a beginner banjo playlist on my YouTube channel. So that should be easy to find if you go to the YouTube channel and kind of just scroll down and look for beginner banjo playlist. It's one of those playlists. You can click on that. That has a lot of just kind of exercises and information and stuff that you can use in tandem with this course. So if you haven't already looked at that, definitely do that. Other than that, as far as the video material, go through it at your own pace. Hopefully, hopefully people will go through it more than once. Like I mentioned that before. And then we have these weekly sessions as kind of an addendum to people, we can chat about, the course material and so forth. I want everything to be very informal. Again, I think I mentioned earlier in this discussion, the way I learned the music was completely informal. And a lot of the best stuff I learned from people who were almost hostile about teaching, who would not teach. So I want this to be as close to the authentic experience as possible, informal, at your own pace. Take everything I say with a grain of salt.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Cliff. This is Stefan. I have a question. Can I hear you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hi. Hi from Germany. I have a question concerning your nylon strings again.
I am so we're having a terrible time with hearing you for some reason. Yeah, maybe put yeah.
Your microphone gain's too high.
Yeah, something was going on there. And then you'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay.
Oh, that's much better. Look at that.
Thanks you. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
I bought, some other people did as well, a Good Time Americana banjo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to try it with, I want to try with nylon strings.
Yeah.
And you said something about the bridge, which is you have to use with nylon strings. Is it possible to use my ebony bridge, or will I break the nylon strings with that?
You won't harm the strings. You can widen the slots on your ebony bridge. The only problem is that the slots on the ebony topped bridge, it's a bluegrass bridge, they're made for steel strings. So the only problem is they're not wide enough. So if you have the ability and the tools or whatever, you can widen those out if you really want to keep that bridge. To me, I just think I find it easier just to recommend people to just order a new bridge. And if it sounds like you might be in Europe, and there's another banjo company in England called Clifford Essex. And
Clifford Essex. Okay.
Clifford Essex goes in and out of business right now. I don't know if their website's up or down, but when they're up, and you can also probably still find their bridges on eBay and stuff like that, and maybe in a music shop somewhere near you, I don't know. Look for Clifford Essex. They make a good traditional one-piece maple banjo bridge, and they're in England. So I used to recommend them to everybody over in Europe, but now there seems like they're out of business again. So we're down to just Joel Hooks, and that's banjothimble.com. You can definitely get one from him.
Yeah,
they're on eBay.
Yeah, eBay has a lot of
Yes,
there's a lot of
I
options.
thought so. But what's about the tailpiece? Perhaps you know the tailpiece of this good time.
Yeah.
Just the Deering one. Can I use it, or will I break the nylon strings?
You should be able to use it. You may, if it looks like it's a pretty good tailpiece, hopefully. A lot of the cheaper tailpieces just have a sharp edge on them somewhere. So if you want to be really cautious beforehand, go over it, rub it with your finger. If you feel anything that feels like a knife edge, that will definitely
sandpaper,
cut.
perhaps?
Yeah, you could sandpaper it. You could put wrap sandpaper, fine sandpaper around a drill bit is what I typically do to get in all those weird spots and kind of floss it out, file it out. Just take away any sharp or rough areas. If you want to be extra cautious. The way I would do it though is I'd probably just string it up, and then if one of them busted, then I would go and sand that and put a new string on.
I buy two sets of strings. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi there. It's Mark talking. Hi.
Oh, howdy. I'm gonna pull you up.
I just wanted to jump in because I also have the Americana, and I switched to nylon strings. And I got one of the Rickard no knot tail pieces.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting a new bridge in the mail, but in the meantime, I just carved out the ebony with a little razor blade.
How's it working?
Too hard. It works fine, except I just learned earlier, somebody was talking about their good time switch. I've got to change the angle of the neck still, but
if you want to,
it's working fine.
Yeah, if it's working fine, maybe don't mess with it. The neck angle is, if it's working fine, you don't have to mess with it. But if it's just something to think about, and you can adjust the angle on the, that's one of the strengths of a modern banjo is you can adjust the angle to any way you want. So you should probably experiment with it, but don't feel as though you have to. If it's working great, leave it alone if you want.
Can I hear how that nylon Americana sounds?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I really like steel myself, but
Oh yeah.
Great, thank you.
A couple ways to get the best out of, to get the max out of nylon string. I think I mentioned this in the course too, is an adjustable tailpiece. Not this one is not adjustable, but if you can get an adjustable tailpiece that you can tamp the pressure down behind the bridge. And then if you do get a hold of an actual maple bridge, that you'll notice that increases the volume and stuff on the nylons too. It's kind of a whole different ball game.
Waiting for my new bridge from Joel Hooks in the mail.
Oh yeah, Joel better. Yeah, he needs to be thanking me. I think I've sent him a few customers.
I was gonna say you better get like some kind of commission conversation happening.
Yeah, he knows what kind of bridges that I use, and so he'll send me, like, whenever I order something from him, he sends me like an extra one or something. So I consider that my commission.
That's great.
Something I noticed, I also have an Americana and I put on some nylon strings, and I didn't know it was the first time, but they stretch for a really long time.
Oh yeah.
Like it was like a week or more or something of me just being like, it keeps going out of tune. Yeah. I just have to keep cranking it, and now it's stable, but
yeah,
I was getting worried there for a minute.
Yeah, whenever I put nylon strings on a banjo, I'll run the string all the way through the peg. So there's basically like no slack. And then I'll make a knot, and then I'll start twisting, because I know that over the next day or two at least, you're going to twist them so many more times, you're going to build up all of the extra string that you need up there. So that is a tip. They're going to stretch like crazy. So one way I do that, I run it all the way through, tie it with as little extra as you can down here, so you can run it all the way through up here, make a knot, twist it.
I have a question regarding a Gourd banjo.
Yes. I'm looking for you.
Here.
Oh, I'm bringing you up. Yes, sir. Question regarding a Gourd banjo.
I'm Jacob from Finland. First, I wanted to thank you so much for this course. It's like kind of like a dream come true. I was thinking I gotta come over to the States and get some lessons from you. I've been watching your videos, and I
Cool.
love your approach and the way you teach and the laid backness. I really appreciate that. So
Oh,
thank you
good.
so much.
I hope you're staying warm out there.
Well, it's gonna be cold real soon here. I'm a farmer also, so quite dependent on the weather.
Yeah.
Anyway, I play on an ohm banjo. This is the second banjo I own. I have been playing for a bit more than a year. I had a bluegrass banjo. I realized immediately it's the wrong instrument for me. I want to play an old-time banjo, and now I've been watching some Gourd banjo, and I just love the sound of that. I think it's so haunting, and it's amazing. And I was considering replacing the strings on this one for nylons, but actually starting to think about it, I think I might want to get a Gourd banjo to go like the whole way. So have you got any recommendation? Because if I get an instrument from the States, I don't want to get a bad one. I want to get a really good one, because I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I've been playing a lot of instruments over the year. I play hurdy-gurdy, I play guitars, I play like sitterns and everything. So
I mean, there's lots of makers. The one that I just been playing is this. Jeff Menzies made this one. I think he does international shipping for, I think they're like, you can get it for $690, something.
Okay.
And with the shipping included to Finland. Jeff does a good job. There's lots of makers. I know there's a maker in Germany. The guy, his last name is Boniface, I want to say.
Okay.
There's makers in Europe, I know, who there's at least one maker in Germany who's doing an excellent job. So maybe that might be an option. Look at Jeff Menzies. I guess that's probably my main recommendation. I think Jeff is doing the best as far as a compromise between quality and the price you're getting. He does a good job, and he's not going to charge you like $1,000. And he's not going to, there's not a weird like shipping charge on the back end that you're not, that's going to be like, oh, you live in Finland, that's another 200. It's like flat rate. So maybe try Jeff Menzies. That's somebody to start looking at.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Okay, Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, y'all, I think I do need to go. We've gone over 20 minutes. I think that's a nice little stretch here. I need to wrap this up. And you'll get the email for next Thursday. And I'll also send out the recording of this today, hopefully. So, okay, everybody. Thanks a lot. I have to go.
See y'all.
See you, Cliff.
Bye, everybody. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody have a good one. Stay warm.
See y'all.
Bye. Thank you.
See y'all.